Eagle fans, before we start today's mailbag video here on the Philadelphia Eagles Now YouTube channel, give me a thumbs up if you guys think the Eagles can make the postseason in 2021. A lot of changes. We all understand this will be coming in the next couple of days and weeks and months in the offseason. But right now, if you feel good about the 2021 Eagles, let me know by liking the video down below. All right, let's go and jump into some of the mailbag questions here. As I said, submitted on our community page. If yours was not answered, you'll probably get one in the next video, but I get a lot of questions, so these are the best ones that I found. Let's go and start with Ron, who says, who are some other good players that we haven't talked about yet that are going to be in the 2021 NFL Draft? Well, there's a lot of them, and I'm sure I'll do plenty of videos in the coming days and weeks about, what Philadelphia could do and what they could get and who they could, potentially draft at this position and that position. So I'm sure we'll get more on this here in later videos, but I think this kind of lead us into a discussion that needs to be had about the Eagles potentially trading back. I think Philadelphia could trade back from number 6 to middle of the first round and pick up some additional first-round draft picks or some additional second or third-round draft picks in order to draft some of the other good players that, for instance, we have not talked about yet. Now, who are those players? Listen, there are a lot of people at not just wide receiver, but other spots that are, to me, still very good that are not named Jamar Chase or, of course, the one that I really want, Devonta Smith. Now, those two would be my pick at number 6, but if you want a different one who's not as draft expensive, how about Rolando Moore, the wide receiver from Purdue? People think he's the third or fourth best wide receiver. Jalen Waddle from Alabama. Apparently, he's going to play in Monday's national championship game. Rashod Bateman is a beast. He runs like a 4.1 at the wide receiver spot, but, of course, plays for Minnesota, so a lesser-named school. And Chris Olave, you'll see in the national championship game as well, a later round draft pick, definitely not a first or a second, but another option there at wide receiver for Philadelphia. There's also some good DBs and defensive players, right? Like Dylan Moses, linebacker from Alabama, is probably a top 15 pick in the NFL draft, maybe the best inside linebacker. Shaun Wade, the cornerback you'll see in the national championship game, he is a good-sized cornerback, I should say, probably a second or third-round draft pick. Caleb Farley is a first-round guy, but he will go behind Patrick Surtain. And then, of course, Ronnie Perkins, the DN out of Oklahoma, is probably your number 2 defensive end after a guy like Gregory Rousseau. We talked about a lot here on the channel overall. So, yes, there are a lot of players we have not talked about that are still very good, a lot of position groups that are still very good. And I'm not saying I want Philadelphia to trade out of number 6, but I want to emphasize that if they were to go back from 6 to 11, there are still plenty of good prospects that they could go ahead and look at, and they'd probably pick up an extra second or third round draft pick if they did that. And these are some of the options, and of course, what you asked for. So there is the first answer to the first question. Let me ask you guys this, though. Would you want the Eagles to trade back? From 6 back in the middle of the first round? I, for one, even though I presented the argument, I'm not really on board. I'd rather just take the best player available at number 6 overall, but I wouldn't, hate it because there are still some good players. What do you guys think? Would the Eagles, or would you want the Eagles to trade back from the number 6 overall pick? Type Y down below for yes, type N down below for no, down below right now in the pinned comment. And while you're getting your questions in there, or getting your answers in there, I should say, make sure you guys are subscribed because I'm telling you, the draft videos, the pre-free agency videos, the post-draft videos, everything regarding this offseason is going to be coming hot and heavy on this channel. We're doing tons of videos here to get you guys ready to go. That way, all these players I read just a couple minutes ago, you're going to know them inside and out and know if they would be a good fit for Philadelphia or not. That's all here upcoming next couple of months on Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's go and jump into another question here. Chris says, should we sign Curtis Samuel this offseason? If not, who would you want to sign at wide receiver? Now, Curtis Samuel, of course, the free agent for the Carolina Panthers, is going to get paid. Someone is going to make him probably, I think, the highest paid free agent wide receiver this year, meaning he's the most expensive free agent wide receiver in this year's free agent wide receiver draft class, or free agent wide receiver class overall, which is honestly not that great. But he has been good. Now, the 3 touchdowns this year, you got to remember Teddy Bridgewater was his quarterback, and the Panthers offense was not that great. But overall, he has dramatically improved since when they drafted him since 2017. The problem is the Eagles have no cap space. And so we're going to get a lot of questions about should we sign this free agent or sign that free agent? And I'm going to keep saying the same answer. No, because the Eagles literally cannot sign anybody right now because they are negative $70 million in dead cap money or just against the cap overall. They have to figure out internally who they need to cut or trade to be able to create enough to just get underneath the cap, and then we can talk about who they should go ahead and sign. Would I like Curtis Samuel? Yes, 100%. Can we afford Curtis Samuel? No, not at all. And so we got to be honest here. The Eagles, after a couple moves just the other day, getting in the minus 40 in the hole, I think is where it's at right now. It was 70, now it's 40. They don't have enough money to sign Curtis Samuel, so I'm going to say no to that right now. Milk and Cookies says, do you think Howie Roseman drafting Jalen Hurts was part of a plan to make Hurts look good and then trade him for another draft pick this offseason? First off, the Eagles are not trading Jalen Hurts, and no, this was not part of some master plan from Howie Roseman. You got to think about this. If this was part of the master plan, then the master plan was for Carson Wentz to suck this year enough to get benched for Jalen Hurts in order for Jalen Hurts to go ahead and show that he's decent in the past 4 games, even though, you can make the argument he wasn't that great in the Washington football game, nor the Dallas Cowboy game before that. And so, no, this was not some master plan, and no, they're not going to go ahead and trade Jalen Hurts. I think they drafted Jalen Hurts, one, because they liked him in the pre-draft interviews. We talked about that here on the channel. They were big fans of him. I think they liked the idea of a Taysom Hill kind of wildcat quarterback, but they also weren't fully sold on Carson Wentz, and that has been evidently clear over the past couple of, months, and it's probably based on some things they've seen in practice and some of the film that they watched. I think they still want Carson Wentz, and we talked about that on the channel, but there is no scenario this offseason I see where you trade Jalen Hurts unless the team offers you a first-round draft pick, and no one's going to offer you a first-round draft pick for Jalen Hurts. Just know that right now. Who do you guys want to start right now? Like, literally right now, 2021, it's whatever, June or January something. Who do you want to start a quarterback going into next season? Type JH for Jalen Hurts, type CW for Carson Wentz. I'd rather have Carson Wentz starting. I just don't know if he's going to be available to start because it looks like they're going to try to trade him, so who really knows? Okay, Dog Film says, if Jamar or Micah Parsons underperform at the Combine, who would be the best/safest pick? So the best/safest pick is Devonta Smith, because the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's not the normal quarterback Heisman Trophy winner, where a lot of people are saying, quarterbacks win the Heisman Trophy, you can't really do much. Other players that win Heisman Trophies are normally pretty darn good because they don't win Heisman Trophies that much. I think the last time it was a non-quarterback, I could be wrong on this, was Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry, back-to-back 2K seasons, he's been pretty good. I'm just huge on Devonta Smith. I'm so high on Devonta Smith. I think he's going to be an absolute stud in the National Football League. I think he's going to be there at number 6, and I think the Eagles are going to have their pick of Jamar Chase or Devonta Smith. You can't go wrong with either one. I'd rather have Devonta Smith. If both Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons underperform and maybe add Devonta Smith into that, then look at a guy like Jalen Waddle, who I think you're going to see in the National Championship game on Monday. He's going to fall in the draft a little bit due to the fact he was injured with an ankle injury over the course of the Alabama season this year, but he is also an absolute beast, and him and Smith on the field together have been really, really good. But I think at 6, it's hard to screw up. Let's just say that. At 6 overall, the Eagles are going to have to work really hard to mess that pick up because I think there are about 8 to 10 superstars in this draft. And if you're at 6, do the math, that means you're going to be there for one of the 10 superstars. Okay, before we keep going here, hopefully you guys bet on Devonta Smith to win the Heisman Trophy, by the way, because, that was 80 to 1 odds at the beginning of the season. You could have made a lot of money if you bet on him, although I bet no one besides his family probably did. But you guys want to go ahead and jump in on some betting here, maybe into the wild card weekend, of course, is upon us, or maybe next year's divisional round, or you want to bet on the NBA or any general sports betting needs. Do it with our friends at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/EaglesBet. Use that promo code EAGLES125. If you put $100 down, then you can go ahead and get $225 in terms of the deposit bonus. So like I said, EAGLES125 with the promo code. It's a 125% deposit bonus. So if you put $100 down, it turns into $225 with that promo code. And like I said, NFL playoffs, you can bet on the 76ers, you can bet on the Flyers, you bet on the Phillies coming up here whenever we finally get to the MLB season. Plenty of things to go ahead and bet on. If you have any betting questions, you can always email us, eagles@chatsports.com, and we can answer any betting questions you guys might have. All Around Threat said, should we rebuild? I think the Eagles are already rebuilding. Honestly, I think that the Eagles, just even the past couple of days, they did kind of the restructuring of the Alshon Jeffrey deal, the restructuring of the Malik Jackson deal, meaning they're probably going to cut or trade both of those players. They are in the rebuilding mode, but I don't think Philadelphia is one of these teams that needs a total rebuild. Like Detroit needs a total rebuild. The Jaguars need a total rebuild. You can make the argument that Texans minus Deshaun Watson need a total rebuild. Philadelphia does not. I think the Eagles can have a good enough offseason, figure out the quarterback spot, which is a big if, and get the coaching situation right. I think they can go right back to the postseason. They were supposed to be the best team in the NFC East this year, and they might still have been. I think they win the division if they stay healthy, so not total rebuild. I think they're kind of resetting right now. It's probably a better overall word, but I think I'm pretty confident. I think you guys should be confident too. I think Philadelphia can reset this offseason and make the playoffs in 2021. And as I said earlier, drop a like if you guys agree. I think they make the playoffs next year, which is going to be, 10, 11 wins. That's where I thought they'd be this year pre-injuries. I think they'll be there next year. Drop a like if you guys go ahead and agree with me. Demon Warrior, Demon Deadman, I think it's Demon, sorry if I butcher your name, says, between each of these key positions, who has the higher ceiling? Wentz or Hurts? Okay, we'll start there. Carson Wentz, for sure, much higher ceiling. He's proven to us that he can be an MVP and the best quarterback of the National Football League, and so we've at least seen this season. I think Hurts can be Russell Wilson, if that tells you anything, but I think Carson Wentz can be a little bit better if we're talking about overall ceilings. Both have a high ceiling. Dillard or Mailata? I want to say Mailata right now, based on what we have seen, he was graded pretty well in a couple of games by Pro Football Focus. I think a full offseason at left tackle as the starter with OTAs and minicamps can get him to be, a great left tackle in the NFL. The size and the leg movement, the lateral ability is fantastic. But also, we haven't seen anything from Andre Dillard. He's been injured, and he didn't even play his rookie year. So, I don't want to poo-poo on Andre Dillard, but I really like what we've seen from Jordan Mailata. Dylan Mills or Kayvon Wallace. I think we've seen Mills' potential at safety, and I don't think it's been very good. I'd much rather put Kayvon Wallace back there, even though he's been up and down in his few starts there at safety. I think Mills moves back to cornerback, because I thought he was a Super Bowl caliber cornerback. He started at cornerback for the Eagles in Super Bowl 52, so I'd rather Mills go back to cornerback and Kayvon Wallace begin to, start off his potential run at being a strong safety, and that's why they drafted him in the middle of the NFL draft here in 2020. Listen, I'm going to mention this. I think the Eagles have some nice young guys, and I said this earlier about the Eagles are resetting, not rebuilding. They have nice young pieces. The linebacking core is better off now than it was at the beginning of the year. All those guys are very, very young. I think Josh Sweat, the pass rusher, Derek Barnett, probably going to come back this year. I like what they have right there. Javon Hargrave is considered a young guy overall. I think the wide receiver core has nice pieces, but needs more, as we've talked about. I think Jalen Reagor is still a nice player. I wish he was Justin Jefferson, but, it is what it is. Dallas Goedert's a nice young tight end. I think they have, decent young safeties. You want to say Kayvon Wallace is a young safety, McLeod a little bit older. After this offseason, they're going to be getting a lot younger. I mean, Brooks and Lane Johnson are still considered young right and guards and right tackles, and Mailata's a young left tackle, and Sayamalo's middle of the age. They will not be this aging team that they were this year because they're going to get rid of the Alshon Jeffries of the world and the Malik Jacksons of the world and the Sean Jacksons of the world and get a lot younger overall. But I think that they have a lot of nice guys that you'd like to just see, fulfill their potential and live up to where they are at, and hopefully this happens in the 2021 offseason and into the 2021 season. Which of the young Eagles do you think has the most potential, overall? I'm trying to think about the answer to that one. Mailata, maybe? I hope it's Jalen Reagor, but I don't know if it's going to be Jalen Reagor. Dallas Goedert, still considered young, but I think we kind of know that he's pretty good. What do you guys think? Which Eagle has the most potential? Let me know down below in the comments section. Let's see. Kyle says, will Howie ever be fired? Not this year. Simple answer. They're bringing back Howie Roseman. That's been made abundantly clear. It's 100% confirmed. Howie Roseman's the GM of the Eagles this year. So if he stinks this year, then for sure next year, but not anytime soon. AJ DeBoss says, if you were the GM, would you rather choose linebacker or wide receiver? If linebacker, what linebacker? If wide receiver, what wide receiver? Honestly, I keep saying this, wide receiver remains the biggest need of this football team because regardless of what quarterback you have, you still need to have good weapons around him. And you can argue Miles Sanders is one of the better young, bright prospects on this team, but he's just one running back. And I like him and Goddard to be two of the anchors of this offense, but you need weapons on the outside to, create some openings to be able to make some throws and make something happen. We haven't seen that really the past 2 years in Philadelphia. And with Jalen Reagor being, a rookie and off to a slow start, it was, kind of compounded upon in the 2021 season. So for me, it would still be wide receiver. Listen, I think if you enter into the draft, you really have two main options. It's either wide receiver or linebacker. I like Jamar Chase. I like Devonta Smith. Honestly, either one of those makes sense. I think Smith is going to be a little better. I think we like the idea that he, of course, won a Heisman Trophy. But I also really like Micah Parsons. And we talked about how I would like to take a linebacker, and I think a linebacker would be a very, very good choice for Philadelphia. I just don't think it's as big of a need as a wide receiver. Now, you talk about, again, other linebackers that you might like. I really, really like the guy I mentioned earlier here in this video, and Dylan Moses, the linebacker from Alabama, which kind of creates the idea that you could trade back from number 6, go to number 8, and then still get a wide receiver and a linebacker. I don't really know, but I'm going to stick by the saying that you need to get a wide receiver. I think they've got to figure out wide receiver. Most good young quarterbacks have a good young wide receiver to go with them, and Philadelphia does not, and that is going to create problems and has created problems over the past couple of years. There you go, though. Hopefully I answered as many mailbag questions as I could. A couple more that I missed here, but of course we do mailbag videos every single week on the channel, so stay tuned for those. And of course, stay tuned for what's going to be, I keep saying, buckle up, wild offseason ride coming. We're covering it here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Ultimately, for today here on the channel, I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.